Can you let the people know who I'm sitting next to?
Yes, this is Luis Flores, aka Break Be Lou, co-creator, Ultimate Breaks and Beats, facilitator of what they call the Bible of sounds for the golden era of hip hop.
Absolutely, absolutely. I love how well you sum that up as well. Like, I'm sure you. I'm sure you've had to articulate that a lot. Yeah. So I'm curious. What keeps you involved in hip hop? What keeps you interested after all these years? Why are you still here?
Well, I mean, that's a crazy question to ask. I mean, we need air to breathe, right?
Yes, sir.
Hip hop has been like that all my life. So before it was even had a name, I was already embedded into it. All of us, true people that are of the culture, they will tell you the same thing, because it's not something you become a part of. It's something that you already are of. To me, it's like a living entity within us that connects all of us, which is the music, is the vibe, is the community aspect of it, is us being from these particular essence of certain cities that have these environments that connects us all, which again is the culture. And it's kind of hard to say what keeps you interested in something that is you. So that's what I mean. As far as, unless I lose interest in myself, is when I lose interest in hip hop.
Right, absolutely. Wow, that's a great answer. So what do you remember as like the first kind of like piece of music or experience in hip hop that kind of just gripped you, that you can remember as just like that kind of like that moment where you knew you weren't going to turn back?
Well, to me, I started tagging in 72, which by the Cold Graffiti. I started dancing b-boy style in 73. I want to say in 74 was the time that I really saw that I was a part of a bigger community in consent with the music. And the reason for that, it was I have a record that belonged to my mother, and the record is called Begging by Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, which a lot of b-boys used to dance to. So that record itself catapulted me into getting more in tune with the music. And then when I heard Apache, the Mexican, and then Giving Up Eternal Lose in the cassette, in the sequences that were being played in, that really took me on. Like, I can literally still to this day, when I throw on either one of those four records, Begging, the Mexican, or Give It Up, Turn It Loose, or Just Begun, and a crowd reacts to me, it literally brings tears of joy in my soul when the records react the way they're supposed to react in the crowd.
Right, and you seeing like that reaction still being there to this day.
It's everything. Is like I say within the show, what keeps us all connected is the music. So the reason I'm here today in Vancouver is because the music translated from the Bronx all the way here to Vancouver. Not the music itself, but the music within the culture that we use. And it's like a living entity. It's like, air we breathe that keeps us in what it is. We all need air. So the way it is now, this room right here is full of people that feel they all need hip hop, and that's relatable through the music.
Right. What can you say about the Latin influence on hip hop, and what has that done for it over time?
Well, to me, I could say from my point of view, and it's been involved since day one, through the dancing, through the concept of the DJs that came into the fold, and then the MCs that came afterwards. Because again, I was part of the generation that birthed this. So a lot of the b-boys that I saw were all Latinos in my neighborhood. 90% of them. Not saying that there weren't others, but I know in my neighborhood, most of the b-boys were Latinos, and I know the up-rocking aspect of the culture that birthed the breaking culture. They were, from Brooklyn to Queens to Manhattan to the Bronx. All 90% that I saw that up-rocked and danced that became breaking were Latinos.
Right. And I heard you mention Apache. Did you know Apache was actually recorded in Vancouver?
100%. Like I tell people, I was speaking with someone yesterday about that. Even though the musicians were all Latin-based, LA-based musicians, the only time they had the session to make was coming to Vancouver, Canada to record it. So you gotta think about it. Being a digger, we looked at everything on a record. So from all the liner notes shows you all of that. So I know for sure.
I didn't get you with that one.
No, not at all. Not at all. Think about
shit.
it. Apache is one of the cornerstones of the culture as far as music. So true diggers, and in this room you got Domino, you got guys. They'll tell you the reason we knew and found records was because we read. nowadays you have digital format, and you don't know what's behind it. So knowing that, again, people don't know that, King Erickson played percussion on and then but King Erickson playing percussion on that, is when you to find other records by King Erickson. When you had when James Brown did what he did, and you saw that he had other artists like Lynn Collins, Marva Whitney, that's the thing. So for sure, I knew for sure that
Awesome.
Vancouver contributed a big factor to the culture of hip hop.
All right, yeah, I shouldn't have tried to get one past the secret keeper. Yeah. So what name, like you're talking about, looking and reading the liner notes. So what name or a few names, like when you read them, it just gives you that kind of like, oh shit, like that feeling.
Lord mercy, Isaac Hayes, Barry White, James Brown, David Axelrod. I mean, there's so many. There's not even, again, and you're going this beyond people that there's Mark Mullen. There's guys that people don't really see the essence of where this thing come from, because if you had Isaac Hayes, that other people that he might have worked with like the Emotions or David Port, all these guys were connected with what he was doing. So it's just, to me, when I was digging, seeing somebody's name, like say for instance, just to keep it simple, like James Brown connected to somebody else, you knew that you had something that was going to be of substance, that was relatable to what we were doing.
Right, yeah. So like nowadays, like we have like, the internet and Discogs and stuff like that, where we can see like all these credits and stuff, and like, I've constantly found myself just being amazed at like the era that you came from, that you guys, just the work that you were doing to go and find these records and do this. And like, it's weird because I think about like a lot of people today pull cheap tricks where they like, it's like they're sampling shit and it's like, come on man, like that's been sampled 150 times. You guys back then, when you didn't have that advantage, right, of the internet, you were still going and finding this. So like what is it that keeps you so invested in this culture? Why do you keep digging? Why keep doing this?
Okay, you have family, right?
I do.
You love your family, right?
I love them.
So music is something that I love. And just to clarify something that you said earlier, we didn't create this for sampling purpose. Yes, something we create, I could, from my point of view, when we created these particular records, were because if you're making a dish, right, you want to have all the original ingredients, right? So what was happening with the culture from the second generation on, the DJs were not cutting up breakbeats anymore. They were cutting up rap records. So they were losing that essence of what it was to dig, what it was to play original breakbeats.
Right.
So when, again, and then you didn't know, the second generation, again, like everything else develops, people get a little lazy with, with looking for stuff. When they find something simple, they go there. They rather go there than hardcore digging. So when you have that concept of looking for stuff just to make sure that something is preserved, that was the reason why we did. So what keeps me looking again is just you try to improve upon something, like something, again, with a dish. Sometimes people like less salt, some people like more salt. So the more you bring into the fold that stays within the realm of what you're working with, the better it becomes, and the more integrity it holds. And those of us that have been doing it for a long time, from second generation, third generation to a generation now, the way I see it is this way: if you have a love and respect for the music, first and foremost, love and respect for the craft, and a love and respect for the culture, then you're on the right path. So my thing is, as long as I'm breathing, I'm going to always bring across the best aspect of what I know this culture can bring for you and what this culture can do for us. Because right now we in another country, and because of the culture, you're here talking to me and there's beautiful people around me, all because of hip hop. So that's the reason why I continue to do still what I do.
Thank you so much for that answer. So, we actually do a weekly cypher, and basically, like we were, just started as some friends that are getting together and rapping, very, very like kind of casual. But basically, this guy, he came, he brought speakers, he brought microphones, and he brought a beat tape that just ran through the whole thing. He kind of made it professional, right? And since then, we've grown this community, like this local community, where 100+ people are showing up every Tuesday to come together just to freestyle, rap, really bring back that culture. Do you think that there's an importance to community in hip hop, and do you think we've lost some of that appreciation for it, and do you think it can come back?
No, for sure. As long as there's two or more people breathing the same air to love hip hop, it will always be relevant and still be alive. And again, what you guys, to me, this is what I feel, and this is the reason why I rock with these guys, with Hyro and Source of Mischief, because it doesn't matter if they're rocking in front of thousands of people, or let's say, for instance, only 30 people show up. The concept of the culture was community, right? The first party that was considered hip hop, the room was no bigger than probably this room here. And it's become a multi-billion-dollar business, right? So that means the people in that room felt strong enough and enough love to have a good time where there was no more than probably 25 people. So if you maintain the concept of community for it, respect for it, anything else that comes afterwards is a blessing. So if you have the mindset of thinking it's monetary or fame or for whatever clout, whatever it might be, then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. That's why if you look, and I'm not dissing nobody from the current age, that's why you think that classics are still classics. And if you tell me right now how many records that have been released in the last 10 years will be genuine classics.
It's a good question. Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. But look at how fruitful the 90s were.
Yeah.
Because the individuality, the love, the true essence of being individual within the community is what made that era the golden era, because you had guys from every facet of race, creed, and region that were going for the same concept, to be original, but to be a contributor to something they loved.
Absolutely. I think that's a great piece of wisdom to impart on the next generation. Is there anything that you see this kind of new era of hip hop or whatever, the modern contemporary state of hip hop? Is there anything that you see that is happening now that impresses you, or that you can big up about what's happening?
I think it'd be very unfair and very narcissistic to say there's nothing new that's good, because I feel if the word hip hop is still being verbalized and conveyed, then somehow, somewhere, there's some truth to it. That we may not like it's a different story, but I have the assurance and the love that I have for this culture, that I know there's a good percentage of people that feel the same way that we all may feel right now, the love and passion for it. Because if not, it would still not be relevant. But that you gotta understand that because everything is so microwavable, so quick to the fingers, and so easy to do, is that people take the short end of it. But all I say is, like I said earlier, the thing that I feel that will continue to keep it afloat and prosperous and respected is, again, have love and respect for the music, love and respect for the craft, and love and respect for the culture.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that, man. Thank you so much, bro. Thank you. That's Breakbeat Lou, one of the OGs, and he's a fucking legend. Obviously, still very passionate about hip hop, which we love to see. So, shout out from Icon Hip Hop. This is Trewth and Breakbeat Lou.
You will be approved. Hip hop for life.